I'm pretty sure most of you at home have a keyboard and a coffee in front of you right now. In Germany, DIN 21371 defines which letter is placed where on your keyboard. And at international level, there's a whole subcommittee of ISO TC 34 discussing all things related to the taste, quality, sustainability, and safety of your coffee. This shows standards are all around us. They're crucial for our everyday life, but also for trade. In the next 30 minutes, we will learn more about the European and German approach to standardization. And for that, I hand back over to Sarah now.
Thank you very much, Vera. And for this second session on standardization, I'm very pleased to welcome Christian Marian and Maria Albert. Please come to the stage. Welcome. We're very excited to have you here today. Now, perhaps we start with a quick introduction. Both Miss Albert and Mr. Marian are project managers for international cooperation. Ms. Albert is at DIN, the German Institute for Standardization, and Mr. Marian is at DKI, the German Commission for Electrical, Electronic and Information Technology. Now, and they've both been very involved in European and international standardization for quite some time, and hence we are really honored to have them here today and have them share their extensive experience with us. So thank you for being here, and without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting us, and yeah, we'll start straight away. We have prepared a presentation on our institutes, DIN and DKE, and have also compiled general information on how we work and what standardization is all about. As I said, we have prepared some information on DIN and DKE. We will explain the relationship, how DIN and DKE is involved at European and international level. We will explain briefly the principles and benefits of standardization, how a standard is developed, and also say a few words to the legal framework, to the regulations and harmonized standards. Well, DIN is an independent platform for standardization in Germany and at international level. DIN has been based in Berlin since 1917, so this means we are more than 100 years old. It is a private organization, and it's a non-profit association. And DIN has a network of more than 36,000 experts from industry, research and consumer protection, and also the public sector, who all bring their expertise to standardization. We have 69 standards committees in a variety of sectors, ranging from acoustics to water management. And in the more than 3,700 working committees, the actual standardization work is done. They prepare and develop the standards, around 2,000 new standards every year. We have more than 500 staff members at DIN, and as DIN is an association, we also have increased the number of membership. We have actually, or currently, more than 3,200 members, and hopefully the number will rise. We at DIN, we provide advice on standardization and on standards. We bring the different interest groups, the stakeholders together. We always refer to the round table at DIN, where we bring together the interested parties from the private, from the public sector, from consumer organizations, and they all sit together and develop the standard. We at DIN, we provide the necessary infrastructure for virtual and physical meetings. We provide the necessary document systems, document management systems. We take care of the editing and layout of standards and the technical rules. And later, once the standards are finished and available, they are published by our Beuth Verlag, the publishing house, which is connected to DIN. And we also try to increase our network. We acquire partners and experts, which is very important also when we start to work on new topics.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. Thank you, Zara. I'm happy here to introduce my organization, the German Commission for Electrotechnical, Electronic and Information Technology. And we are also private organization, and we have more than 9,000 experts. They're working in more than 1,200 working committees, and they meet around 800 times a year. And we also publish more than 500 standards a year. And also very interesting is that 95% of DKI's revenue is made out of selling the standards. And yeah, so we hope that we could give you a nice overview about DIN and DKI. And now I would like to switch to another very important and interesting topic, and that's the relationship between Germany, Europe, and the international context. And to do that, I would like to show you this picture. And here it's very important and it's very important to keep in mind that we are always moving between three different levels. We are having the national level, we're having the European level, and we're also having the international level. In the national level here in Germany, we just introduced our standardization bodies, DIN and DKI, for the electrotechnical and for the non-electrotechnical standardization bodies. And if we're going to the European level, then we have at the non-electrotechnical field, we have CEN, the European Committee for Standardization. And in the electrotechnical field, we have CENELEC and ETSI. And now if we go one level further, then we're coming to the international level. And on the non-electrical field, we have the ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, and on the electrotechnical field we have the IEC and the ITU. Okay, so this is very important to understand, but what makes it so interesting and so powerful, this picture, is the interaction between the different levels. And to highlight that, I would like to present two important agreements, and this is the Vienna Agreement and the Frankfurt Agreement. The Vienna Agreement is between CEN and ISO, and the Frankfurt Agreement between CENELEC and IEC. And yeah, so once again, this interaction between the different levels and working and developing standards internationally is very important in our opinion. And we always say, if you followed yesterday the event, then it was also said that do it once, do it right, do it internationally. And to show you an example how this looks in reality, I would like to show you a little graph. And this example is from the electrotechnical field, how we develop standards on an international level. What's the share of international standards? And I would like to share some very interesting and nice numbers. And I would like to start with 96% of all standards here in Germany are developed either on IEC or on CENELEC level. So this is really an amazing number, because if we think about it, then only 4% of all standards here in Germany in the electrotechnical field are basically developed from purely German experts. And this is a really great achievement, and we're also very proud of that. And to go even further, 84% of all our standards here are based on IEC standards. And this is also like a great number, because 84%, this is like, yeah, almost every standard is developed with our international experts and colleagues, and this is great. Yeah, and then, okay, 12% are purely European, and as I already mentioned, 4% are purely German standards. So once again, I'm trying here to show you that the international work is very important, and we really believe this is a key when it comes to standardization. And by saying that, I would like to give the word back to Maria.
Yeah, as I said, we'll have compiled some information on the principles and benefits of standardization. Standards and standardization is voluntary. Standards are voluntary documents that can be used. The development process of standards must be open to the public. That means that anybody can take part in developing standards. And once a draft standard has been prepared, it will be given to the public, and the public has the opportunity then to review it and give comments on the draft. A broad participation of stakeholders is very important also in view of the acceptance of standards. And in developing standards, in standardization, we take the consensus-based approach, which is one of the fundamental principles. State-of-the-art means that standards reflect the latest technological developments. And we always try to ensure that the collection of standards is coherent, uniform, and consistent. The economic benefits, this is another very important topic. Standards contribute to cost reductions, and also they reduce the costs of R&D, research and development. Expert knowledge, there are great advantages and a lot of benefits for the experts involved when they take part in the standardization work. When they meet other experts, other colleagues, they can exchange know-how, and this is well ahead of time, and also at the same time they can make sure that the company's interest that they represent is taken into account. And then basically standards facilitate the market access, they enhance global trade, and also help to reduce barriers of trade. And they, thus the economic growth is enhanced and promoted at international level throughout the world. And last but not least, quality. Quality is a very important topic, quality and trust and confidence. If standards are being used and if they are being applied and conformed to, consumers can be sure that there is quality involved, and they can be sure that products are safe and have a very high quality. And the application of standards also lowers the liability risk, which is also very important in this context. Yes, we have had a study on the economic benefits of standardization. We already had this, the first study at the end of 1999. And this study, or the results, were reviewed in 2011, and the results were confirmed that standardization helps to generate savings by the German industry amounting to 17 billion euros a year. Yes, and some information, how do we develop standards? In general, anyone can submit a proposal for standards work, can propose new work items. These proposals will then be reviewed and forwarded to the responsible committee. They review the need, or they will review if there is a need on the market, if financing of the developing standards work is secured, and if there are experts willing to contribute to the work. And once these questions have been clarified, the responsible committee will start working on the content of a standards. As I said, we are working on a consensus-based process. And we are at DIN, we are in the lucky position that we have more than 36,000 experts from all sectors, ranging from industry, research, politics, and consumer production, who all bring in and contribute their expertise to the standardization work. When the draft standard is ready, it will be made available for public comment. This means that the general public has the possibility, usually for two or 4 months, to review this draft and hand in comments, and all the comments that were forwarded will be considered and reviewed, and the committee then decides how and if these comments are taken into consideration. In the end, DIN publishes the final standard in our Boyd publishing house, and in general, standards are reviewed at least every 5 years, and then it will be decided, will the standard be reworked, will there be revision works, will it be cancelled, or will it stay just the way it is? Standardization also plays a very important role in deregulation. We have the public sector that sets the legal framework and lays down the protection targets, which is very important in all sectors which are concerned with safety aspects. Example given for product work, for products for work and environmental safety. The framework is drafted in laws and regulations. And in contrast, standardization translates these legal requirements into technical solutions, and this also allows the regulator to quickly respond to technical regulations. Because laws and regulations cannot be changed as quickly as standards and technical rules can be changed. This is a big advantage. And there is the possibility for laws and regulations to quote standards and technical rules, which is a great benefit for both sides. We have a good example for the public-private partnership, which was developed in 1975 when DIN and DKE signed an agreement with the German government. And in this agreement, DIN and DKE are recognized as the official national standards bodies in Germany, and they represent Germany in the non-governmental European and international standards organizations, CEN and ISO, and CENELEC and IEC. And DIN and DKE are also obliged to consider standards projects which are in the public interest. We have also to make sure that weaker stakeholders can take part in the standards work, for example, like SMEs. And obviously, DIN and DKI will do everything to ensure that DIN and DKI standards do not conflict with international commitments that have been taken by the German government in order to liberalize trade and remove trade barriers.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. And now I would like to invite you once again to go with me on a further step to the European level, because Maria just introduced an agreement between the German government and the National Standardization Organization, and I would like to talk about the new approach, and this deals with Europe and the European standardization organizations. In 1985, there was an agreement which is called the new approach, and basically it says that the European Commission should give like basic requirements how a product is safe. And then on the other side, the European standardization bodies, they should define like more precise how like a manufacturer should produce the products to be safe. So basically here in this context, we say that the European Commission should give the what needs to be met to have safe products, and then the standardization organizations, they define the how. How should a product be manufactured to be safe? So by saying that, I would like to take you on a very last journey with me, and this is a simplified development process of the so-called harmonized standards. How does this harmonization work in Europe? And as I already mentioned, here it starts with the European Commission. And the European Commission consults with member states, with the European standardization organizations, and with other stakeholders. And to define the what do we need? And then once we have it, then the European Commission writes a standardization request and gives it to the European standardization organizations, to CENELEC and ETSI. And once they accept the standardization request, then they start developing the standard. They start to draft it. And the process, Maria already mentioned how it works. And then once the standard is done, then it goes back to the European Commission. And the European Commission checks the standard if it meets the essential requirements which were defined in the beginning. And if they do so, then this standard becomes a harmonized standard, and it is finally published in the official journal of the European Union. And yeah, so this is the whole process of how does a standard become a harmonized standard, and we hope that we could show you how standardization can benefit businesses and societies. And I just thank you for your attention, and I would also like to take this opportunity and thank everybody who participated in this publication, because I think this is a very, very big step forward to build safer products in the world. Thank you very much.
Well, Ms. Albert, Mr. Marian, thanks so much for this really informative presentation on the role of DIN and DKI, but also the relationship between different standardization bodies and general concept of standardization. Now, dear audience, you might have guessed it by now. It's again your time of the day. And now you can ask your questions. I'm sure you have many of them, but just typing them into the chat. And I see one person has been particularly fast, and I like that question, so I pick it up. This whole conference generally is, of course, on quality infrastructure. And this person wants to know what the role of standardization in quality infrastructure is. I guess, Ms. Albert, this is perhaps for you to answer.
Yes, standardization is one of the main elements in quality infrastructure. And as we have learned in the last 2 days, the different elements of QI are closely interrelated. And QI is very important for the global trade and helps to increase the consumer confidence and also the quality of products. But standardization has a very special place in this whole system because the other organizations and elements very often base their work on standards. So all in all, I think one could say that a Q system would not work without standards.
And perhaps, if I may, just as a follow-up question, why is it then so important to coordinate QE at an international level?
Well, because global trade needs more international cooperation, and these interconnected elements all help to create more trust, to make products safer, and to make life easier in the end for all of us and safer.
Thank you. Well, dear listener, I hope this answered your question. And I see another one has come in, and I guess this goes to you, Mr. Marian. What is the difference between the Vienna and the Frankfurt Agreement?
Yeah, thank you for this question. This is a very interesting question. Well, let's just keep it short. The Frankfurt Agreement between Senelec and IEC basically is, like, as I already mentioned before, the idea is to work as much as possible on an international level. And the idea of the Frankfurt Agreement is that once there is a European project, then we try, or we want to transfer it to the international level. So in Senelec, in the Frankfurt Agreement, if there's a European project, it will be transferred automatically to IEC. And only if you don't want to transfer it to IEC, you have to raise your hand and say, we need to work it out on a European level. And taking now the Vienna Agreement, this is more or less the opposite. At the Vienna Agreement, it's if a European project comes in, then you have to raise your hand proactively to bring it to the international ISO level, and only if you don't do that, then by default it stays on the European level. And this is okay. This is like, it does make sense in some sectors, and because sometimes there are sectors which are only interested for Europe, and then it doesn't make sense to transfer them on an international level. But basically, this is a difference.
And perhaps the next question fits as a follow-up question. How can we actually accelerate the standardization process? Are there any mechanisms? I don't know. Feel free to choose whoever wants to answer this.
I could do that. Well, mechanism, we have another instrument, the so-called specifications, DIN, DKI, VDI, and they are based on a different approach. As I said, standards are developed on a consensus-based approach, but specifications can be used in areas, in sectors where there is a very quick technological development, because specifications can be developed rather fast, if all goes well, within a couple of months. But there is a difference because, as I said, they are not consensus-based, and these specifications are not forwarded to the public for their comment or review, but they are prepared more in smaller, agile working groups. Specifications could be used later, maybe as a basis for full consensus standards.
Thank you. Now, there's so many more questions. It's hard to pick, so I apologize to those whose questions have not been answered. Perhaps as a very last one then, regarding the legal framework, if I understand the question correct, it's basically about how a legal framework can be met in standards. Perhaps, Mr. Marian, this would be for you.
I can take that. I'm very thankful for this question because I believe this is a very important question. I'm very sorry, time is very short. I'm trying to keep it very short now. And once it comes to harmonized standards, then we have some additional documents. At CEN they're called Annex Z, at CENELEC they're called Annex ZZ, and these additional documents, they basically link the regulation to the standard itself. So very simple, you have 2 columns in this annex, and on the first column you have the part of the regulation, and on the second comment, on the second column you have the part of the standard itself, which targets or which links to this mentioned regulation. And this is a very powerful document, because it facilitates the user to see which part he needs to focus, or she needs to focus on, to meet the regulation, the mentioned regulation. And this is, this is great, this is powerful, and hope I could answer their question.
Nice final words. Thank you so much, dear both, for being here and sharing these really interesting information with us.